Hey everybody, this is Don with the Vlog of Many Things, and in tonight's episode, I have the pleasure of interviewing Tim Kask. I'm going to bring Tim Kask in here right now, and we'll go ahead and get the interview going. Tim, how you doing tonight?
Well, I'm waiting eagerly to talk with you.
All right, good deal. Everybody knows, I think, who you are, but just for those who've lived under a rock for the last 50 years, can you tell a little bit about yourself? And
or if there's the oddball newbie that's watching a thing like this, then they wouldn't know me at all.
Never know.
No, okay. Brief synopsis. TSR, Dragon, Little Wars, then on to Adventure Gaming, then Gygax Magazine, then Eldritch Enterprises, and now enjoying retirement. Good
deal. Now, you were the first full-time paid employee of TSR when it was under control of Gary Gygax and company. And so, can you tell the listeners who's watching this what were the various hats that you wore at TSR?
Well, when it was just 5 of us. There, we all wore all the hats except one. Everybody had a specialty hat. I was the editor, but I was also the game collator, the shipping clerk.
Yeah.
We did everything that needed to be done. And then in my case, I went home and did my editing because I was only there a half day because my wife worked at the county hospital and we had one car. So I had an office at my house, and so I did a lot of my work from home.
Gotcha. So, looking back at your time at TSR, though, can you think of anything in particular, like maybe 1 or 2 things that happened that you were directly a part of that you look back and really are proud of being a part of with that legendary company?
Yeah, and this goes to Dragon Magazine. Gary and I had several what I've called blue sky sessions. We just sit and we'd spitball ideas. And we both recognized the fact that the rising tide lifts all boats. So before I was even hired, I specified that I would not be involved with a house organ. Only our products, whatever. So we set out with Dragon Magazine and with Little Wars in the beginning to talk about all the good games we could come across. I never gave an inch of column space to pan a game. There was too many neat games to show to people.
Yeah.
We helped build. We were in the very first stages of building the industry that we now have today. In the magazine, I put on articles about every good game I could get a hold of that was, written well enough that, and if it wasn't, then I edited it. We did. Didn't matter if it was sci-fi, fantasy, didn't matter. We just wanted to be about games and gaming.
Gotcha.
We tried to reconjure that magic many years later with Gygax magazine, but that's another story.
Now,
sorry, I have a dry nose today.
No, you're fine. Now, again, you were involved in a lot of projects. Now, one of the projects you were involved in was Blackmore, correct? You were
that was my first assignment. I was given a whole lot of notes and half sheets of paper and said, "Here, this is a supplement." And I already had a copy of Greyhawk, and they said, "Do it like Greyhawk."
Now, when looking at Blackmore, when you look at the version that you guys published back in, what was it, 74?
No, I got there in 75. I think that came out in late 75 or early 76.
But when you look at the finished product, you talk about the pile of notes that you got. How much of those pile of notes never ended up in Blackmore, the actual supplement?
There weren't enough notes to be able to do that. I used virtually every idea that I was handed, or every scrap of an idea, or every thread of an idea, and then I wrote stuff to fill it in. I wrote what I call bridge material trying to make, things fit better. I put in Steve Marsh's whole race of Sahagin because I felt that with the Temple of the Frog and a Myrrh race, if you will, was a natural association. Well, Arneson didn't agree, but that's water under the bridge a long time ago.
Yeah. Now, the thing is, looking back at TSR though, and Gary Gygax. Gary Gygax is, sadly he's gone, and with his passing, there's a lot of legends about the man. There's a lot of things about him and Dave Arneson, about who Gary Gygax and Dave Arneson were. You knew those men really well. So, as someone who
I knew Gary really well,
mm-hmm.
Arneson didn't allow him, so he didn't share much.
Mm-hmm.
He was a strange bird from the beginning. He was very close guarded. Came in with his own set of prejudged biases and never bothered to get over them.
But okay, but as far as Gary goes, and I know we could probably talk about this all night, but who, in your own words, who was he really? I mean, how was he to work for?
He was as a guy that loved to play games, just like he's been quoted again and again.
So all the hype and rumors are true. He's just a guy that really loved the hell out of games.
Right. And before there was a TSR, before there was a Tactical Studies Rules, he was writing stuff for Guidon Games. He was publishing the newsletter for the local hobbyist in the upper Midwest, which is the way a lot of the hobby sustained itself during the dry years. And it's funny how much talent came out of the upper Midwest.
Mm-hmm.
And how many active game clubs there were. But he was a gamer. He liked to play games. He worked at several different things trying to support his family and hit upon one that, this might pay for the groceries.
Yeah.
That's all it was at the beginning. Yeah, everybody dreams, I'm going to buy the grocery store. No, but, maybe I can buy the grocery, So we actually, because at this time it was, me and him and Brian and
Brian Bloom, right?
Yeah. And Terry was, and Rob was around, and Terry was around, but not nearly as much as Rob and Dave Sutherland. And so that was the core. That was the core of the very beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said earlier, we all did everything.
Yeah. Now, kind of winding the clock back a little bit, I read that when you were a young boy that you loved to play Avalon Hill's D-Day a lot.
Yeah. I discovered it in the 6th grade.
Gotcha. I've got to ask, do you still have a copy of it? Do you still play it? I
have it. I haven't found anybody interested in playing it because, quite frankly, by today's standards, it's not a great game.
Mm-hmm.
And there's been so many articles on do this defense, do that attack.
Yeah.
But I loved it. And Mike and I played it all through 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. And then I went on to junior high school and things changed. And I didn't game again until I was in the Navy in about 1968.
What'd you do in the Navy, Tim?
I was an aviation fire control technician. I made sure the bombs went where we aimed them.
Gotcha.
And I made sure we aimed them right.
Well, thank you.
I was with an intruder squadron. And at the time, we had the single most sophisticated aircraft in the American arsenal. The
F-4?
No, A-6.
A-6 and the intruder?
Yes. Yes. The intruder could take itself off in a rainstorm at night, fly, give it 2-3 checkpoints to keep it on the track, bomb the target, and fly itself back and land. Now,
Gotcha.
We've never had a single pilot that was willing to let him do that, but it always worked on the simulators. But it was very sophisticated. We could fly 500 feet over the jungle at night in a rainstorm.
Nice.
So it was very sophisticated for its time. And from it, the EA6 and the A6B, and those all came from it. Now it's a 4-seater and full of electronics.
Nice. Now,
yeah, it was a Tweety Bird. It was an Airedale Tweety Bird.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, electronics guys weren't they weren't held in real high respect by the deckhands and stuff.
Oh, yeah. Now, when you left TSR, and we'll get back to it a little bit, that part, but when you left TSR, you were involved in several magazines, right?
Yep.
What were they, and tell us about them.
Well, I came to Cincinnati because the principals at Ralph Arthur said, hey, we think we want to do a magazine just as good. We don't think there's any reason we can't, and we'll back you on it. And so my wife, God bless her, we packed up our daughter and our son, and we moved here. And we started Adventure Gaming Magazine. And this was the early, this was like 82. And we were clipping along pretty well. We got up to about 13th issue, I think. And this put us about 6 months into the Reaganomics recession.
Oh, yeah.
And about somewhere in excess of 40% of all the small businesses in the U.S. went under during that period of time, not just mom and pop hobby shops.
No,
there was a huge toll on them, and therefore no circulation.
That was under Manzakk, right?
Yep.
Gotcha. Quick question: how'd you come up with the name Manzakk Publishing?
My 2 children.
Oh,
Mandy and Zach.
Well, you know what? That works, right?
Yeah, that shows how high hopes I had, but Partha had some interior problems. I had been saddled with one of the principal's wives as my art director, and she was a total twit. And I don't mean to brag or sound, I don't mean this the wrong way. The gaming hobby was so hungry for a quality game magazine. A quality Chevy or a good Ford would have sold, but she wanted to make an Oldsmobile.
Yeah.
So we were using fine art out of museum collections and shit like that. Oh, am I allowed to swear?
Yeah, we're not monetized.
Oh, okay.
You're good.
So, and then I lost several grand out of my, I couldn't sustain the loss.
Well, you were quoted that you lost your shirt in that deal.
Well, a good portion of it. A good portion of it, yeah. I just had to give it up and got out of gaming, and that was the last for over 20 years I had anything to do with gaming.
But you were involved in other magazines too.
Well, there was there was a very ill-fated Gygax magazine, which I happen to be wearing the shirt for tonight. As it happened, I put it on this morning before I even read the questions. Gygax magazine was a brilliant idea. I was approached by Jason Elliott, who was the publisher.
Yeah, he's with Cellar Games now.
Could be.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. I was approached by him as a consultant. He gave me a nice tiny chunk of change, and he picked my brain for 3 hours. And then over the course of the next few weeks, back and forth, we way used up whatever he paid me for a consultant fee. But I was cool with it because I love gaming magazines. I'm an idiot that way. And pardon me. There again. The magazine was a great concept. Gary and Ernie were involved in it in different ways to varying degrees, but they were very much involved in it. And it was the name that they were born with.
Yes.
And then the widow.
Yep. Gail.
I simply refer to her as
the widow.
The widow. It is my opinion that the widow is a narcissist and also is one of those people that reflects that bathes in the reflective glory of someone else, in this case,
Mm-hmm.
Gary. It is my opinion that she doesn't know the first thing about the gaming field.
Mm-hmm.
That's evidenced by the fact that immediately upon Gary's death, she called up the Castles and Crusades guys and pulled all the products instead of ordering 2,000 more of everything, knowing that they would sell like hotcakes upon the occasion of
Gary just passed. That stuff would be flying off the shelves.
Oh, well, she was convinced it was going to be worth even more. Then we started the magazine and everything, and she went and filed, I guess it's copyrights, on every goddamn combination of the word Gygax and anything having to do with games.
Trademark, I think, is what she did.
Yeah, 80 of them or more.
Mm-hmm.
And effectively prevented Ernie and Luke from using their own name commercially on anything that would be, the use of the game Gygax. So she effectively killed it right there. Now, if she hadn't killed it right there, I don't know that it would have lasted much longer under its then present format and staff.
Mm-hmm.
It was riddled with nepotism. Boyfriends, girlfriends having in jobs they didn't know their ass from second base about.
Mm-hmm.
And way too many chiefs, not enough Indians, no control over the contributors. Nobody seemed to be able to say, okay, you, and you.
So it was basically no real creative direction in the whole process or project. It seemed like.
Well, it is true that I believe, as far as I know, to this date, none of the artists for the first issue have ever been paid.
No.
Now, it may be that later ones were, but I do know that Jim Wampler was their art director and quit in disgust with what was going on. And to that, I would have hoped you asked him last night when you talked to him. But
I actually did not know that Jim Wampler was involved in Gygax.
He was art director on the first day.
It would have been on my targeted list to ask him then about.
Well,
maybe interview two one day if you allow.
Do your research. The other problem, all right, and with the then present staff was the ineptitude of some of the people that were in very important positions when it comes to putting out a magazine. I'm convinced that a couple of them had no concept of games or gaming or anything based on what they did. However, even if that hadn't happened, I don't know that it could have lasted. No matter how good, we could have had Pulitzer Prize winners writing in there, but if you have no advertisers to pay the way, and there are so few companies that you'd either have to have 100 small ads because nobody would be able to afford a full page, what a full page is worth. I mean, figuring ad rates in that is a very, very tricky business.
Yeah.
But when there's no advertisers, it really doesn't make a difference.
Yeah, especially in a magazine that doesn't have a track record of sales that you can push to the advertisers and say, listen, I can have so many eyes on the magazine.
They lost their shit when it was announced that it was coming out.
Oh,
N-World went crazy. These two gamer babes, and I don't mean that's the image they portrayed to me. A couple of gamer babes just went crazy about, am I going to bring back Dragon and yada, yada, yada. And it was, the expectations were way out of line. But we didn't have too much problem selling ads at the beginning. But we ended up only doing 6 issues, and I think we'd already lost a couple of our what we had hoped would be stalwart advertisers because of market economy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the gaming market, a lot of companies couldn't afford it.
Gotcha. So besides that, then, was there any other magazines you were involved with or anything of a similar nature?
Well, I wrote a column for Castles and Crusades Society magazine.
Mm-hmm.
After Gary died, I took over his column slot in there, and I wrote, I don't know, 6 or 7 there. But nothing else springs to mind gaming related.
Gotcha. Now
that's enough.
Yeah.
1 hit and 2 failures.
Mm-hmm. Now, kind of like a little bit off topic, a little bit more lighter, you know, tell everybody, you know, Tim Kask, you know, who are you today? I mean, you know, what makes you tick? What do you enjoy doing? You know, you're retired, I know. And I know that you help people with, other projects and we're going to get into your YouTube channel here in a few minutes. But as far as you, what makes you tick? What do you like to do besides?
Well, yesterday I spent 5.5 hours with 2 of my great grandsons and my wife at the zoo.
Ah.
And it was only the second time that the youngest one had ever been to the zoo. And the week before that, we took my oldest great granddaughter to the zoo. And in 2 weeks, we're taking our other 2 great grandchildren to the zoo.
Yeah.
I like doing that.
In the research that I've done, and in our general relationship that me and you've had over the past 6 or 8 months, I know your children and especially your grandchildren are a big part of your life.
Oh yeah, the great grands. You know, if grandkids make life grand, great grands make it great. I've got 5. Yeah, I got 5, but there's a 6th one that is a half brother to 2 of the others, so he's part of the family too.
Yeah.
And well, right now we're in a mild hiatus for the time of the year, but generally speaking, we all get together twice a month for big dinner at our house. I just spent a good deal of time tutoring my oldest great granddaughter, because her education suffered somewhat during the lockdown, and so I'm bringing her back up to speed.
Yep.
I hope. And well, at least I got her promoted. She's not being held back. So yeah, my wife and I have been married. We'll be married 53 years in July. And we play a lot of gin out on the porch when the weather's nice. It's pretty mundane, really. That part of my life is pretty mundane, pretty normal. When I was younger, I coached kids soccer and taught refereeing and stuff like that. And I spent 20 years building an organization here in Cincinnati called Fishing Has No Boundaries that works with people with special needs. I just, I'm retired. I can do
anything you damn well please.
Yeah, and I'm not a drinker, but I'm pretty well known as a toker, and and I don't give a shit. And I'm known as one. The people in the industry, I could spill the beans on.
Now, 3 quick questions. I want to, in all my interviews, just throw 3 off the wall questions at people that are really cliche and mundane, but what the hell, Yeah. Okay. Favorite movie?
Oh God. Does it have to be a cinematic release?
No.
Band of Brothers.
Band of Brothers.
I'll watch that again and again. I actually watch it about every 2.5 months.
Nice. Favorite food?
Oh Lord.
And 420 is not food.
No. That's the spice that makes it.
That's the spice.
Favorite food? Mexican.
And I already know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask it anyways. Your favorite sport?
Soccer.
Yep.
I got roped into being a soccer coach when my daughter was very young.
Yep.
And one thing led to another, and I was in that for several years, and then taught kid referees how to referee, and then I was a high school announcer for a long time, and I follow the Premier League. We got the #1 team in the MLS right now.
Oh, nice.
Cincinnati. Yeah, FC Cincinnati's in first. We're 8 points. We're 8 points ahead of the second place with a game in hand.
Nice.
Yes, we're in. It's great. The Reds are in first place. FC Cincinnati's in first place.
Mm-hmm.
The Bengals are great. It's like, am I really still in Cincinnati?
I was about to say, it seems like a whole Ohio kind of thing.
Well, it's hard to believe we're in Cincinnati and having so much fun with our sports teams.
Yeah.
So many years of suffering.
Yeah. Now there's one thing that you do have, is your YouTube channel. You have a YouTube channel called Curmudgeon in the Cellar.
Yep.
And what is it exactly? I'm going to put a link down below to it for our viewers can go ahead and check it out. But what is it exactly, and what gave you the idea to do it?
Honest to God, I don't remember what gave me the idea to do it, except I think it was like, well, shit, I can probably do that. And I did one. Because right now there's 266 numbered episodes, but I did a bunch of them before he started numbering them. I started doing them on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
And then I've ported them all over to my channel. I talk about gaming. Here, I'll give you an idea. This is the one that's coming out tomorrow morning. All right, we've been talking about encumbrance.
Yes.
And so I always posited, in my opinion, or this is what I do.
Yep.
Knowledge may vary. We talked about encumbrance, underrated equipment items. Okay. Somebody asked me when I was a celebrity auction, what it was like to be a celebrity auctioneer. All I do is respond to comments left from the previous one.
Oh,
and
okay.
If it's sparse, well, I've done a couple of 20-minute videos.
Mm-hmm.
Once in a while, I'll do a topic of my own choosing. But I'd say 85% of the time, I just respond to comments left on a previous one. And sometimes it'll spur a couple, 3 weeks of hashing over the same topic. Sometimes it doesn't. But it's not a rant.
That's actually what I like about it.
Hmm?
That's part of what I like about it. I've actually talked to a few people in prep for the show, asked them, that I know that watch your show and say, give me a few things you like about a show. And that's one of the things that comes up quite a bit is he doesn't use it as a soapbox. He just gets right down to the core question. He asks about, sometimes there's a story of, of what happened in the past that kind of adheres to it, but it's never a, Tim jumping on a politics or social politics bandwagon. It's just getting to the core of the question.
Well, watching what happened to a couple of people I knew on social media made me realize that I ought to just stay the hell in my own bailiwick, talk about what I know, games, gaming.
Yeah.
All right. And game design, game play testing, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I just stay there. Every now and again, I'll introduce something that I've seen been running up and down on Facebook for a couple of 3 days.
Yeah.
I might make a comment on something like that. In fact, I might have done that the week before, just as an idea. Okay, I spoke about the new TSR bankruptcy.
Yeah,
you and I know about that, don't we? And then I talked about what we all ought to do every once in a while, and this is just as human beings, not dungeon masters only, is go out and look at something through the eyes of a child. Mm-hmm. Like me taking them to the zoo and watching I've got my littlest one. He is short to begin with, but he's 5 years old and he's got a 6-pack. Mm-hmm. Go figure,
Yeah.
But watching him look up at that elephant, you get a new perspective. I took my great-granddaughter to a butterfly show last week, and watching her marvel and her eyes light up when they land on her and that.
Yep.
And you know, I mean, I already like butterflies a lot, but watching her react to them.
Yeah.
You know, and so that sometimes I'll just pull something out of the air like that, and just kind of a, you know, feel good thing. But I think if you want to be a storyteller, you have to be able to see through many eyes.
Yes.
To know the story, to feel the story that you're trying to tell. And so every once in a while, you go out and do something with a kid.
Mm-hmm.
They'll enjoy it. You'll enjoy it. And you'll probably get a new perspective. Yep.
Now, Eldritch Enterprises, back in the day.
Yes.
What was it? You know, what, you know, I know it was you with a group of others, but
it was an ill-fated idea.
Okay.
Because one of the 4 people involved had a monumental ego that absolutely gummed up every wheel of progress that we could have possibly made. If that person didn't have something to go out, didn't matter how many we had in the can ready to go, we couldn't publish them.
Oh, Jesus.
I've still got 5. I've got 5 adventures written.
Wow. You ever thought about publishing them?
Well, if it was real easy. Mm-hmm. I'm 74 years old. You know, I'm looking for easy. Looking for easy. Now, granted, 3 or 4 of them they're playable because they were written up as con adventures. Mm-hmm. And I still have a terrible habit of writing too much for a con adventure or anything else. Mm-hmm. I fight that a lot. So some of them need a little more fleshing than others. Some, you know, I wrote them several years ago. So I even wrote a short story that we published in an anthology. Mm-hmm. And I can't tell you how many people came up and said, "Man, that was the best story in a book." And I was forced to do it nearly at gunpoint.
Now, to have you clarify something, this is something that kind of pissed me off when I saw it. Speaking of bankruptcies of TSR 3.0, you had a pretty hard smear labeled on you publicly by an individual attached to that about bankrupt company.
Licking somebody's an intimate portion.
No. That was I'm not. That was the other thing he did. I'm talking about him making the allegation of why you left TSR. So for the record,
that asshole. No.
Yeah. So,
I left TSR because I was there. The Blooms had just taken power, and they were consolidating. The Blooms had a history. You'll see after I left of whoever became Gary's confidant got shoved out the door. Mm-hmm. They isolated him at every opportunity. Yep. I was given an option that they knew I would find untenable. So I left. Yep.
On your own accord.
Oh yes. Yeah. Oh yes. I preserved a copy. In fact, I have the original copy of my letter of resignation.
Well, I wanted to bring that up very specifically because the smear that was labeled on you by that individual,
supplies,
that you were a thief, really pissed me off because, you know, I just wanted to ask that question to clarify it on the record here. So,
no, I never stole anything from
you. I had no doubt you did, but I just wanted to make a point. You know, because I highly value your friendship and what you've done for the gaming community.
No, I never stole anything.
Yeah. Now,
for 3 years we didn't have anything worth stealing. I was using my own typewriter.
Yeah.
What was I going to steal? Paper?
Yeah, paper.
That.
Now, you got your vlog. Besides your vlog that is your own project that you do, what else are you currently working on? Anything, things that you can talk about. Let's put it that way.
Well, I'm working closely with someone you know on a new idea project to be started sometime later.
Yeah.
I'm patiently waiting for D20 delving.
Oh, amen.
And everything. And I'm patiently waiting for Curse of the Weaver Queen to get done by Jared and his crew. Apparently,
I supported that. I cannot wait.
Well, apparently it's finally going to be ready at Gen Con. They've had trouble sourcing. Don't get me wrong. I love Jared in many ways. Mm-hmm. He frustrates me in many ways also. He lost his shit on that Kickstarter and kept on stretch. And now he's having trouble sourcing all those little unimportant bits that got added in as stretch goals.
Yeah.
As I think you learned, stretch goals are a snare and a mire waiting for you to step into it. Mm-hmm. And that's it. So maybe
they'll bog you down. They'll bog you down post funding hugely.
Yep. And so I got those two coming out. Maybe at Gen Con. Who knows? Mm-hmm. Now, so that would be exciting. I got another one there. Other than the other one that I'm working on, nothing.
Gotcha. Well, lead an idea, because it's a question. You have one hell of a ride in the gaming industry. I mean, you were ground floor at TSR Hobbies. You worked on Blackmore.
Let's not forget the rest of them. I did all the supplements after Blackmore.
Yeah. I mean, you worked on AD&D also, if I'm correct on that.
Yeah, Gary and I sequestered ourselves in his office for a week and cut up several brown box sets, about 8 of them, as I recall, and cut them up so we could paste them on, stick them on corkboards. We'd stolen every corkboard in the building and nailed it up on Gary's walls. And when we were done, that was basic and that was advanced. Mm-hmm. And I walked away from any of the game design part of TSR games. I walked away at that point and was strictly into periodicals. There was one minor recursion or recurrence, if you will, and I've told him about it. Mm-hmm. I gave the first book to my car to edit, and Gary asked me to take it home over the weekend and read through it. Mm-hmm. And I've told my car that. Yeah. That I was to, check it over, and it was fine. Mm-hmm. And, but that was it. And from then on, the only games I was involved with were Snit Smashing, Snit's Revenge, Awful Green Things from Outer Space, Backgammon. Mm-hmm. Those are the only games I was involved in from that point on.
So given all that, have you ever thought about writing a book about? Never, really?
No. I have no interest in writing a book.
I admit that surprises me, given your editing experience, your writing background, and all that. I mean, but you know what?
Here's why I won't. Because unlike here on this video right now, where I don't name names, if I'm going to write a book, I'm going to name names.
Gotcha.
And I'd sooner not.
Yeah. I can respect that. Yeah.
Most of them are piss ants who would just be a minor annoyance. Mm-hmm. But I don't really need that in my life. After all, I don't need turmoil. I don't need friction.
Yeah, there's enough of it out there.
Yeah. Hey, look, dude, I made it through cancer. I don't need anything else.
Yeah. Now, again, you were in on the role-playing game industry from the very, very beginning. So looking back at all of that, and
I might have been the person who coined the term role-playing.
Oh, great!
We don't know which of us did. It was during the Dallas Egbert crap about being lost in the steam tunnels. We had all these media people calling us up, wondering, what is this game? What is this game? And I know for a fact that I told several writers, you play a role in a fantasy scenario.
Bingo. All
right. Now, I'm not saying I did. Mm-hmm. We were all trying to come up with what do we call this? Because it wasn't an RPG yet.
Yeah.
But out of that turmoil, I think that's how it stuck, role-playing game.
Gotcha. But looking at all of that, and then looking at the industry today, as an example.
What industry?
Well, in general, What's that?
The Hasborg?
Well, that's my whole thing. I mean, what, in your opinion, could be done in general with the industry today to make it better, improve it?
All the people that aren't Hasborg should, if they were smart, get together and form an association so that they could pool their monies, they could pool their resources, and put on a credible fight for a portion of the market. Now, I'm not saying go out and write the next, I'm not saying go out and compete with the, 6E or whatever the hell it's going to be. But yeah, come on, we're getting kind of stale.
Yeah.
Where's the next? I was really disappointed to see that Post-Apocalyptic didn't take off any better than it did.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a great field to be explored.
Yeah.
But people would rather have elves and dragons. And that's okay. But if it were me, if I were writing stuff, I'd write it for Jim's Mutant Crawl Classics.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because, God, there's no rules as far as who can do what. None of this, you can't carry a sword or even, you carry whatever the hell you can find.
Yeah.
And I like that open-endedness.
Mm-hmm.
I think that would be fun. But, there's lots of good small companies putting out good stuff. Goodman Games is a good company with some good games. They're tiny compared to the Hasborg.
Oh, yeah.
They're tiny compared to Wizards. Everybody's tiny compared to the Hasborg.
Yeah.
If they had something like Gamma with Teeth, except it'd be more of a small publishers type thing, and they could get over not looking over their shoulders every minute, thinking that somebody's stealing something from them. They get over their paranoia. They might be able to. There's good games out there that just don't have the exposure because they don't have the money to advertise.
Yeah.
There's no place to advertise.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that would be the only thing that I would violate on my vlog. If somebody wanted me to put in a 20-second video or something on their new game, I'd make them a good price.
Mm-hmm.
And I won't take money for anything else, but I would for games.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. Might have to talk to you. Now, I got a question.
Yes.
I have heard that there's this infamous character, and I believe his name was Tim the Lusty Druid.
Well, that goes back to when we were playtesting the Village of Hamlet.
What brought out Tim the Lusty Druid?
Well, because Tim got assigned. Tim's character ended up becoming Jeru of the Ashstaff, the Druid of the Grove. All right, and we would hold testing sessions usually during the evenings, and Tim couldn't always make them to him because I was at home with my daughter. Yeah, and if I couldn't get anybody to look after her, I didn't go. So on every session that I didn't show up, they made up new verses of this really raunchy song about Tim the Lusty Druid and the fact that there was hardly anything in the Grove that he hadn't had relations with up to that point. Yeah. And so, that was it was an insider thing. And gotcha. Thank God it wasn't named Tim when they published it. It was Jeru. But that was back in the playtest days. Back when we would playtest a module 8-10 times with expert players. Yeah. It's not 8-10 times with your buddies. Oh, that is some people that are going to pick you apart at every place. That is something that I harp on people all the time about when we start talking about playtesting, and they talk about, I'm sitting down this weekend with my family or friends. I'm like, no. It's sort of like having your mom edit your book. Yeah. It's like, it ain't going to work. You're a brilliant writer when it's your mom editing your book. Yeah. Now, you have a thing called the Wheel of Blame. Yes. It's what I do at cons now.
Yeah. What is exactly the Wheel of Blame?
Well, hypothetically, first off, I was TPKing way too many groups. They were having fun, but I wasn't. So, and then I got the cancer and made me rethink things. And so I came up with the Wheel of Blame. Now, I'll admit I have seen something like it done by a couple of other people, but I believe that I took it to another level. The Wheel of Blame is for up to 7 players who are handed a pre-gen and are told, all right, here's a note card. Put down 2 things on this note card. Things. Okay? I mean, it could be a rock and a stick, or it could be, something much more elaborate, but 2 things. I collect the cards. I take 5 minutes, and the adventure begins. And I work all of those cards into the adventure, hopefully disguising the hell out of them so that I get the music to my ears. Oh, God, I died on my own card. I love that one, because afterwards we go through all the cards and the adventures one by one and the card that prompted it, and they have to fess up. Very few deaths. So I did have the first ever TPK because someone and since on the list of banned items, no thermonuclear weapons will be allowed, and because somebody put down an atomic bomb, and so I put it in a steel and it had a keyhole about this big, and I'm damned if the archer didn't put an arrow through the keyhole. So we're rolling getting these improbable numbers, and sure enough, it hit and started the timer and blew out the bottom of the wheel, and they all died. And it was so much fun. In that, we did this, we did that, and I stopped. And I go, I said, well, you're all dead. What? Because they'd heard that had never happened on the Wheel of Blame.
Yeah.
And it's just about having fun. It's about thinking outside the box. It's not about killing things. The pre-gens I give them are a bunch of fighter types and a cleric. And they have to think their way around. I don't give them anything that is sure to kill them. Any puzzle or pose, anything that poses an obstacle, there's always a way to think around it, and that's what the wheel is about, thinking outside the box. And you know what? Every single game I've ever run, every single player has stood up and come over and said, will you sign my sheet, please? Tell me what a great time they had. Because it's not about hacking and slashing and killing. Yeah. We do that. That's not the core. And they know that they can't take anything they find with them anyway, but so who cares? They just found a whole trunk full of gems, It's so much fun, But it's a transient thing. And I've run that now. Oh Lord. Well, I got a group in Okinawa that's played 6 times.
Yeah, you were telling me about that. You do a Zoom call or something?
7 wins. They call, it's a group of expats that all play D&D. There's about 22 of them all together, I think. I run it online, $90 and I'll run it for up to 4 hours for up to 7 players.
Nice.
And I've run a few online. It's something to do, like I said, I'm retired.
Now we're approaching 50 minutes, so I'll wrap this up with one final question. 50 minutes, we hit it. See,
I told you. Of all those unasked questions, which one is the one you want to end with?
Actually, it's not going to be any of them that are on my list.
Oh, good. Because I'm not even used to getting a list of questions in advance.
Yeah,
I'm used to shooting from the hip.
There are a lot of people out there who are getting into the game design, game publishing business. Places like Drive-Thru RPG and other places like that make it very easy to publish your work. It's not like the old days. Now, looking at all these up and coming publishers or people that are in publishing right now, what advice would you give them on how to, if they're going to do it and they're going to do it right, in your opinion? And I know right is a really broad word, but what would your suggested advice be?
Just because you love it doesn't mean anybody else will. Don't
Nice.
take it to your family. Take it to a con, small con, local con. Take it to your local game store and ask them, can you have the table Tuesday night for a playtest session? You'll get people that want to play.
Yeah.
Test, 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 test. Not with your friends. Your friends will be reluctant to hurt your feelings.
Sage advice. Agreed.
Playtest.
Yep.
Playtest.
Good deal.
You might think it's the greatest idea in the world. We had a game at TSR that we thought was just the greatest idea in the world. It was revolutionary in its format, and it sat on the shelves and stank, and I've mourned it ever since. William the Conqueror 1066. Diceless combat board game / miniatures on a mat that can be wiped off. But it didn't have dice.
Yep.
How can you play a game without dice?
Yeah.
Well,
that familiar element.
Yeah, I did the development on the game. I thought it was a brilliant game, and it just sat there. That's my biggest failure at TSR. William the Conqueror. And yes, I have one, and yes, I play it.
Nice. Well, Tim, thank you very much for coming on. I appreciate this a lot. I think that a lot of people are going to get a lot out of this interview with you.
Okay.
And,
come see me in the Curmudgeon. You'll get more pearls of wisdom tumbling from my lip.
Yep. Well, I'm going to go ahead.
As well as some fertilizer.
Yep. Well, I'm going to link down below Curmudgeon in the Cellar. I'm going to make sure that's in the description.
Appreciate it.
This show will be on the Vlog of Many Things. Well, it's going to be tomorrow night, which will be the tonight when people are watching it, Saturday, June 24th. And again, thank you, Tim. I very much appreciate you coming on my show. And I wish you all luck.
My pleasure. Can we talk after you stop?
Yep.
it?
All right. Well, again, thank you very much, Tim.
You're welcome. My pleasure.